I would just kind of get it in between.
Okay.
But I can still hear all of you.
Okay. Because like when I went off to make some food before you got on, Matthew, when I came back, I was muted, and I
Yes,
didn't.
that's because I was tired of listening to that music.
Oh,
Yep.
Okay. All right. So the host has the power to mute. Okay. All right.
It's like the perfect GM. The GM's just like, I'm God, and this is not the soundtrack to my world. Goodbye.
Welcome to another episode of Arkov's A Marriage of Serpents. Episode, I believe, 6. In the last episode of A Marriage of Serpents, our intrepid heroes followed their host, Darrow O'Boyne, across the city. First in the old market, exploring the home of Donald Alou, and finding his wife and their many children in relative distress at his absence, and involuntarily Sisyphus sensing the hatred that evidently the builder structure that is the ribbon, the travel road out of the center of Kerkuval, sensing its hatred for the humans that remain in Kerkuval, he reacted in rage and literally knocked the roof off of the Olu's house, and then fled from angry neighbors through the bog. Having collected themselves on the other end of the bog, they decided that they needed to follow Darrow's path since he had not returned to his most excellent wife. And so they made their way across Kerkuval in the dark to the Clearwater district, and finding the walled enclave in which Bandon Alou resides, one of the other missing fighters that you mentioned to Darrow. They attempted to make their way in and were stopped by a contentious woman named Dara, who challenged them on every point. And when they mentioned that they were following Darrow O'Boyne, told them that he'd come and caused a ruckus and must have fled over the wall because she hadn't seen him return, and grudgingly allowed them to follow his path to the Olu compound against the outer wall of this little community. Inside, they found the animals cared for by Bandon Olu's family in distress and already clumped together and afraid. They found that the large dun occupied by the Olu, by Bandon's family, had been sealed, at least the front part of it, by a very powerful magic. And they went around through the sheep and chicken pen on the side of the house to the middle of the house and went in through a shutter, where they found a house not in an unusual state of disarray, until they got to the back of the house, and there seemed to be a loom area that was in significant disarray. And when they lit candles, they saw that the wool had been pulled apart and disarrayed in such a way that it looked like the web of a spinner. And in the center of it, there was a large wooden door leading down into the cellar that was open. And they stood for a long moment in the blooming of the light and regarded the disarray of the wool pulled apart there from the loom. And while it is possible that a spinner arranged it, there was no substance to their quick examination that revealed it to be anything but wool. So it was a loom and a number of woolen supplies pulled apart and organized in the centered, orderly way that a web of the spinners is organized. And from the open door leading down below the
Paul?
family's large
Question.
home into the dark, there was no light nor sound. Go ahead.
So a spinner's web, what kind of web do they have? Is it like a really nice symmetrical thing, like a golden orb spider where you've got kind of this large, like very circular web? Or is it more like a black widow where you kind of have just all these little strands and it looks like they kind of just like pooped out like this kind of messy like
So
cobweb upon
typically-
cobweb?
So typically a spinner is very organized and orderly about the
Okay.
web that they spin.
Okay. So they actually
And
know what they're
this-
doing, unlike
and
black
this-
widows.
This show, well, black widows are just high all the time because they're some bad bitches. But spinners, on the other hand, are orderly and methodical, and
Okay.
and the spreading of the wool up here is orderly and methodical, but not in fact made of a spinner's
Right.
sticky web material.
Right.
Is that's weird. Right.
Mhm.
Like it's
Oh
almost
yeah, that's weird enough to leave and go find the Gardi Shahana.
uh-huh.
Absolutely.
Uh,
And yeah,
Who's the
at
Gardi
least one
Shahana
person
again?
at least one person who was here before you did not do that. The Gardi Shahana are an idea birthed by the Tuhal, by the first lord of Tuhal here in Kirkuval, which is there should be some persons that are responsible for the public peace,
which is a novel concept.
which is a novel concept.
There in the past there hasn't been a public kind of guard.
So are these like police? Are these like
Yeah.
secret police?
That's secret.
No, they're like police.
Okay.
This is the only city on this continent that has police.
Uh-huh.
Right.
They deal with everything that's not magic related, in which case they're like, nope, we're gonna call a witch hunter.
Right. They're responsible for keeping the public peace. So whatever happens, they respond, and then they figure out how to deal with it and who to call to deal with it. And so if it's in fact magical, they would absolutely call a red wizard, a Druderic, a servant of the Red Blade.
So I was curious earlier, like the wool came from inside the room, right? There was actually like spools of wool. Do we see
So
like
there is a loom and a spinning wheel in the room.
right?
Yes. And the wool and there seems to have been some wool besides that on some tables.
Right.
There are like some tables kind of built in front of some shutters that look out onto the yard. And yeah, the web seems to have been constructed of them.
And the construction of the web, does it seem like a human could have done it, or does it still seem like it was a spinner that did it?
Are the connections not?
Good question.
So as you give it a closer eye, Kian, who you have passed through the intervening mountains between Tuhal and Kahal, and certainly at least seen a spinner's web, because they live in the mountains of Kahal as well.
Right.
If this is a human undertaking, it's a very deliberate one, because the wool has clearly been taken from multiple sources, but it's not like yarns of wool have been spread up from a central knotted point and kind of all anchored together like a human carpenter would do. It's like wool that was in the room was spread out and then sort of clarified in the intervening spaces. And so it looks to you like a very convincing spinner's web.
And Dale asked a good question, like, are the connections knotted?
They are not.
So what's holding it up is
the mutual tension of lamb's wool. You're not sure what's anchoring it to the walls because you haven't ventured into it, but as you look close, it's clearly not like yarns of wool knotted together and then spread back out.
if I follow. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, if I follow the strand to the wall, what is connecting it to the wall?
So you lean in. What are you using for light?
I think we found a torch in the front room that was unlit, and we lit it. So I think I'm using that.
So you would know that torchlight close to unraveled wool is a dangerous thing.
Ah. Is there, not being kind of familiar with anything past modern technology, like, is there a way that you would be able to shield it and still have some light? Like a lamp that they would use glass or something to kind of.
Yeah, so I mean, there are sort of hurricane lamps, like glass funnels around candles. I mean, that technology certainly exists.
Is it possible that I could find one of those in the house?
So you go searching for alternative light sources?
Yeah, this is important enough to do an investigation of the room before we go in, I think. At least Kian thinks so.
And so Sisyphus, as I recall, remained outside with the clumped up sheep and the chickens, and Cecile is in here with us.
Yeah.
On his gloved palms. And Claiborne,
he was on my back, and I gave him to Claiborne.
So while Kian is looking around, Claiborne is going to walk right up to the web and examine it and its attachment to the wall.
Okay. It's clearly all the same substance. It's clearly wool, but it's also clearly been worked methodically somehow. So are you just looking, or are you gonna do like an investigation?
Is seeing as a spider's web is in its basic form a trap, I'm going to do an investigation without touching.
Excellent. And so what are you tapping? Oh, and I wanted to say, this is Marriage of Serpents, episode 6, The Spiral.
Not ominous at all.
No, totally fine. So, do you have any tags that you can tap to perform this investigation deal?
I think. Hang on. Um,
So I think maybe you could
Yeah.
use shapes.
exactly. Yeah. Because I'm perceiving the shapes separate from their visual quality.
Yeah. Okay. So 2d6 plus 1.
Mm-hmm. Ah, come on.
Ooh, it's rough.
Yep.
Alrighty. So you lean forward to examine one of the connections with the wall, and it's just so dark in here that everything is sort of gray, and and the wool is so thin, and then you realize that you've leaned forward far enough without realizing it that several of the lower strands have started into your body, and you jerk backwards, pulling the entire assembly off the wall after you. And then you turn to avoid it, which pulls it off the other wall. And the loom kind of crashes down to the ground. And you turn several times, quickly trying to free yourself of the wool strands, and you become sort of entombed in them. And so you sort of end up as like a two-armed, one-bodied, enormous wool dummy.
Yeah. Okay, I'm looking at my roll, and it's not snake eyes.
Yes, but you need a 7 to hit. So, so you missed, and it doesn't do any damage. It doesn't have any lasting consequences, but it does sort of move against the intent of the investigation.
Yeah.
Look on the bright side. I mean, the Aztecs and Mesoamerican civilizations were all about kind of that cloth armor. And
Whoa. Whoa.
Oh, I didn't
wow, John. Wow.
see that.
Wow.
That was a Google for the Michelin Man. Did not see that.
Awesome.
And we're done.
He is fully functional.
It does look to you. It does look to you, judging by the chunks of something that isn't wool that got pulled in, that the web was being held to the walls with beeswax.
Oh.
So Kian, you come back into the room with a hurricane lamp, with a with a copper with a copper ring, with a copper base, with a slender glass chimney with a fat beeswax candle in it.
And it turns out the spider's got Claiborne.
Burning, and sadly, the spinners have claimed Claiborne.
I fear that I require some assistance.
Oh, Claiborne.
It's hard to
I,
be sticky.
Claiborne's not fireproof, is he?
He is, actually.
oh, well then there's a very quick way to resolve.
Yeah, Cecile asked that. It's like, Claiborne, are you fireproof?
Yes. Unfortunately, the rafters above me are not.
That's a good point. And I'm not fireproof.
Yeah, and let's try not to destroy another roof today. Kian says, putting the lamp down gingerly.
Cecile looks hurt again. It was part of a roof, like a tenth of it.
Mm-hmm. He says, pulling strands of wool.
So
Easily your companions free you from the wool
Okay.
that has come loose from the walls.
is,
This is
so
clearly not really a spinner's web.
Is there any sign of the kind of knot work symbol that I noticed earlier?
No.
Can I conduct an investigation?
Sure. Dale, you were asking a question. What was it?
Sorry.
is the wool sticky?
So, as a being made of damp clay, all wool is sticky to you?
Okay.
It
But
it
I mean, it does. It's not like dipped in glue, sort of
no.
spiderweb stickiness.
No. It's just that you leaned against it and then you were like, ah, and then it sprang free and you turned to get away from it and walked away and it wrapped around you and yeah. No, it doesn't seem particularly engineered to be sticky. Although wool untreated has an enormous amount of lanolin in it, and wax. Lanolin is essentially like wax, and so wax would also adhere very well to your body. And so this must be like relatively fresh wool. And so, John, you're going to conduct an investigation?
Yeah, I think I'm going to use my science of letters like I did in the spinner cage at the Proving Grounds.
Oh, well, and that worked out great. So
It worked out better than some of the things I've tried. I would like to tap my perceptive science of letters and secrets from my mission.
Okay, and so, okay, those seem fine to me. What do we see?
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. I want to check something real quick. Can you remind me what a gold juice does?
So you can spend it to like create an ephemeral assist or other helpful marker.
It's a consumable though, right? It goes away?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, I'll save it. Yeah, so, and can I tap, do you tap 3 or 4 max? I forget. 3?
3.
Okay, so I got 3. I think he does the same thing, and he does it intentionally the same way that he did it in the cages. So for the others there present, it's very familiar, and he's deliberately kind of doing it because he's trying to see if there's a connection between this arrangement and what happened earlier. And even though the web is now gone and kind of destroyed, like before, he's kind of looking for the thread of what was really being done here. And so as he conducts his investigation, there's an aspect of it at first that is kind of the physical, meticulous patient examination of somebody who's trained, as he is, in tradecraft. But as he goes, he marks into the earth or in the walls, and he's you notice that he's following the threads of where the wool had been, which I assume that there's still some of it left, either adhered to the wall or here or there, and he's kind of making ruins into the earth or into the walls with, I think, a kind of a stylus that he carries for this purpose. And he kind of carves them in a sequence. And every time he does so, the first one just looks like a carving, but every subsequent carving glows a little bit more brightly.
Can I just clarify here for a second? Poor Sisyphus got in huge trouble because he stood up a little too fast and put his head through the roof. But it's perfectly okay if the human wizard just goes through into a house and just starts writing on their walls without it so much as an introduction.
There's a term that we call probable cause.
Also, white privilege. Go on, John.
Yes. I'm not a member of the Gardaí, but I am a servant of a noble house. So, also,
just checking.
Also, important observation. Nobody's here right now, which was not true at the other house.
Oh, so this is kind of like teeping their walls while they're not here, kind of a thing.
So, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and make my roll.
Hey, if you don't get caught.
Exactly. Kian never claimed not to be a hypocrite. He just claimed to be practical. 10. Dynamite.
Okay. No, not dynamite.
Oh,
10.
it's a great success. But,
yeah.
What is dynamite?
12.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so you get 3 questions regarding the web and the construction of the web.
What is the purpose of the web?
The original purpose of the web was to defend the room.
Okay. To defend the room. Has that purpose already been fulfilled, or
Yeah. Yes.
I see.
Whatever happened to whatever happened to what it was defending against?
It was co-opted.
That's my 3, right?
Yeah.
So I pass on.
And in the pale light of the runes, the image of a spinner crawling up out of the hole in the ground appears, and it's sort of rearing back on its posterior legs and exposing its face with its many eyes glowing like golden runes and hissing. And then it fades.
Oh. It's possible.
Are you okay, human wizard? You look like you just saw a ghost.
Do the others see that image?
Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
But I think as that happens, Kian reaches over to kind of scrub out the last rune, but it kind of vanishes before he does so. But then he does it anyways. He scrubs he scrubs it out. This might be optimistic, but I think the room has already acted against one of the spinners that seemed to try to escape through here. We might be looking at the aftermath. Perhaps Daru is safe after all.
There's no blood. That's a good sign. So the spinners, do they eat their victims whole, or do they like suck the juices out?
They suck the juices out.
So there would be remnants if they ate
Yeah.
somebody.
But remember that when we looked in the spinner's cages, there were empty shells of insects, but nothing like that.
But there were insects, so they did leave something behind.
Just the shells, right?
Right.
They didn't suck them dry.
And I don't see anything like that around here, which is a good sign.
Yeah. I reach over for the lamp. I think I'm going to go below.
Would you be willing to free us before you go?
Oh, I thought we did.
I thought so too. I thought we pulled all the.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Okay.
No, Paul even said that we freed you without much trouble.
With me standing in a cocoon of
No,
No,
Okay.
that was the first. That was the first thing we did.
So there's a pile of slightly clay damp wool, about half your size, and then you.
Okay.
So Cecile kind of raises a finger. Master, he says, with a whole bunch of
Yes.
with heavy parentheses around it. Is it wise for us to stay here in the case of somebody coming? And he kind of points at some of the drawings on the wall, and then he kind of points at the wall on the floor, and he points out like a couple of scuff marks on the floor and just a little bit of dirt that's been tracked in. Well, perhaps you would be safe from the law. I feel that perhaps Claiborne and I would be judged harshly for our participation in this. What looks a little bit like larceny, breaking and entering.
I can bring you outside to Sisyphus.
The window through which we entered this place was already broken, and we have not taken anything from this place.
I suspect that whoever resides here is gone for an extended period or has already met a rather unwelcome fate.
I agree.
Right. That also makes me just a little bit nervous. So if the humans come and they're dead and we clearly came in here, I just think that they might jump to some conclusions.
There is certainly a risk, Kian says, acknowledging.
Yeah, I think you hear just a little Cecile under his breath. Yeah. More risk for us, less for you.
I can bring you back to the window.
I can walk on my own. He kind of gets off and he's kind of going on his hands.
Provided we survive, where are you going?
I don't know. I'm just saying we should. He's going to whisper to Sisyphus to kind of keep his eyes open through the window. And then to, I think Sisyphus is actually fairly talented.
Imagine an enormous Saren leaning back against the building and looking to one side as though he's camouflaged. And
Well, I think the thing is he's kind of stone looking. So I think what he does is he just kind of rolls into this sort of mound thing, and he just kind of looks like this big like rock that's sort of taken residence
It totally
in
worked on
someone's
me
yard.
when I woke up at the when I
Right,
woke
and the
up at
sheep are kind of going around.
when I woke up at the fall down. Like I didn't even know that it was not a rock at first. So
So I think he is going to make. There's these. What would be like a native? Is there like a native frog, like a bullfrog or something similar?
many.
Okay, so he knows a couple different calls, and he's going to signal us if somebody gets close.
Okay.
I don't
He
want you.
says incomprehensibly.
I don't want you to feel like you have to do this, Cecile. I think Claiborne and I will be safe enough. If you wish to wait with
Oh,
Sisyphus.
I'll see the rest of the way. I just thought one of us should be the voice of reason. If we're going to ignore reason, we should just at least admit to it. He kind of clambers back up on Claiborne's shoulders.
Kian purses his lips very tightly.
Okay. How do we proceed?
Going underground?
How long would this lamp last?
So it's a beeswax. It's a short, like 3-inch wide, a 3-inch tall, 3-inch wide with 3 wicks beeswax candle. So it would burn for a day or more.
Oh,
So the only danger is it is either you dropping it or the glass coming off, and the light going out.
If that happens, I can lead you.
you did
So
us well in the bog, Claiborne.
So Kian, are you taking the lead, or are you letting Claiborne go first, or what are you doing?
I'll let Claiborne take the lead. Although I will follow behind with the lamp.
You are important, and I will follow you.
Right behind you.
And then you go first, Claiborne, or you wait for him.
That's all he says.
Okay. And so you wait for it. You just stand there staring at him.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, the Dree was so nice to volunteer. It would be a shame to not take him up on
The
Kian eyes Cecile so much more risk for you.
the pale light of Brugon leaking through the shutters in this room
yeah.
makes a gray mockery of progress.
Kian muttering goes on into the darkness.
Okay. You descend down into the dark, and there is the soft, inescapable odor of mildew, and then the smell of like turnips is what you guess. Some earthen something. So you descend 11 steps down the little wooden ladder, descending from the door, and reach damp earth under your feet, and the smell of turnips.
How big is the space? How wide is the space down here as I leave the ladder?
So you step away from the ladder and kind of wave the candle lantern right and left. And it's maybe 4 or 5 spaces across, and there seem to be bins tucked into like cutouts in the walls. And it's obvious that on the other side of the basement from the ladder, that the wall has collapsed.
I look at the wall that's collapsed. Can I see through it?
Darkness.
I get closer. I move towards it.
Okay. So he's moving away from the bottom of the ladder, carrying a small circle of light with him.
Okay.
Are you remaining up in the room?
I
Oh
assume
no,
we're
we're
following.
following.
Okay.
Is this a passageway or is it architecture? I mean, is it a tunnel or is it architecture?
So there's a wooden ladder down into an earthen basement.
Okay.
And so that's, homesteading.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the two of you reach the bottom of the stairs and turn, Kian steps forward and kind of extends the candle lantern through the collapsed earthen wall, and you see maybe 2 or 3 rough feet of earthwork, and then what is obviously like smooth granite, and you see steps leading away and down.
I look around for evidence that Daru has been here.
So it looks like the cellar was originally about as big as that back room, with earthen walls all around, and there were some dugouts with large wooden containers. But it looks like in this wall, there was a large section that was just a curve of earthwork, and it looks like it burst into this room for whatever reason. And you don't see any marks or anything, but then you see obviously like carved white granite steps moving down and away from you.
I'm gonna turn around slowly, and I think the two of you see the light move, like from, the light is on the other side of my body, and as I turn, the light reveals my face. And I actually go back past you. Actually, I think what I do is I set it gingerly on the ground next to, supported by a wall. I don't know how far the light will go, but if it's far enough, I'm going to actually look into the container, or one of the containers down here.
Yeah, so there are 6 containers. There are 6 like wooden kind of drawers, kind of set into the wall, and they contain potatoes, onions, turnips, carrots, beets, and nothing.
And nothing?
Yeah.
Like nothing else?
Yeah.
Or is there
There's
an empty?
one that's empty.
Does it look recently used?
No. There's a few like gray bits of something at the bottom, but doesn't look like it's been used in a while.
Take a gray bit and sniff it.
Okay. Cabbage, maybe.
Yeah.
It would make sense there wouldn't be any cabbage down here this time of year.
I turn back towards Claiborne. Do you have any sense of how long ago this wall might have been collapsed, Claiborne?
That is an interesting question. Do I?
How would you know that? Or how would you figure it out?
There's a certain in any basement with earthen walls, there's going to be a certain level of dust on things, and it's possible to have rubble without dust on it. Like, is the rubble fresh enough that it hasn't collected the slight layer of dust that everything else does?
Okay. And what tag would that be?
Oh, I think that would fall under shapes and possibly also geology.
Okay.
Also, chunks of an earthen wall are going to be dry on the outside and moist where it was broken open.
Okay.
They're
If it's recent.
Huh?
If it's recent.
Yeah, there will be a difference in the moisture of the chunks.
So are you claiming all three of your pliable pillars? I'll
No.
give them to you.
I think just two of those.
Okay. So 2d6 plus 2.
Mm.
Greedy.
Well, that's better.
Yay. Adequate. More than adequate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so you have two questions, and so you get to choose whether this exposes you to danger, whether the clues you get are fuzzy, incomplete, or whether whether the basement or whatever made the wall collapse gets to know something about you.
Oh, I think definitely exposed me to danger.
Okay. All right. So what are your two questions about the collapsed wall?
Did it happen in the last few hours?
No. It was in the last few days.
What was the mechanism used to collapse the wall?
Air pressure.
Really?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Okay, so how much of the ceiling collapses on me?
No, everything's fine.
Ah, excellent. I'm really glad that everything's fine. Stop that.
And so you rise from one knee among the dirt clods.
Oh, do you want me to tell them what I found?
Or not.
I am surprised to be telling you that this did not happen recently. It was perhaps a few days ago.
Only a few days. Interesting, because the incident at the proving ground was a few weeks ago.
Yes, it is interesting. Also, this wall was blown down.
Blown down.
As if a great wind.
Huh.
Not an exploding fire, you understand, but a wind.
Air.
There's as he makes this pronouncement, there is a strange scent in the air that isn't turnips or beets or ancient cabbage. Something else. There's certainly the smell of granite in the air, but something else.
Something organic?
You think so?
Is there a scent of rot?
No.
Can I do my knowledge of what's past?
Absolutely.
So that's part of my divination, the dreams of the dragon, and then that would be the, the knowledge of what's past.
Uh-huh. And any other tags you're tapping?
I don't think so. Not for divination, no.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna tap a weakness, which is beacon.
okay. So that would be minus
And-
one. I have the plus
and
one.
drag you back down into the previous category.
Okay.
Wait, what do you mean by category?
So 10 or higher, you succeed without complication.
Mm-hmm.
7 to 9, you succeed with complication.
But I got an 11.
Oh, you did?
Yep, because I didn't add the plus one. I just
Oh.
rolled the 2 dice and then.
Is it too
Oh,
late?
Okay.
Is it too late to use one of my hurt/help points? Because I've got 2 for Cecile, and I haven't had a chance to use them yet.
I think it is. So.
Okay, next time.
John didn't want me to succeed either.
No. I wanted to give you like an attention. I wanted to give you a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it's a 10?
Yeah. So you have 2 questions about what, or 1 question about what passed here in the Earth.
So the Earth kind of records what kind of goes on. So I want to know what or who was here.
The insignificant.
That's all I get for 10, Humble.
I mean, you're asking the Earth who came here.
Fine. We'll do
People I don't care about.
right. If I rephrase that,
Oh, stingy.
can I ask something along the lines of something's kind of like come and gone? Like I can kind of see its path as kind of coming. Do I know like which direction this force left?
Down.
Okay, so just further down.
So the benefit of John, the
Sorry.
benefit of that answer is, this isn't gods or servants of the dragon or, this is people. This is people. Who
Okay.
cares? The living, the dead, the living pass here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's some comfort, at least
Yeah.
for you.
We
So
still haven't. Yeah, we still haven't found the human warrior we're looking for.
Yeah.
Do you pass that information on, Cecile?
Yeah.
In which case, I think Kian says that's actually helpful because that tells us that probably what passed through here was a mere human warrior, exactly the person we're looking for.
I have a cultural question for you.
Yeah.
Well, this is towards Keegan. Is it common when a human warrior crosses something inexplicable to move forward singularly rather than going and getting help?
Well, I would say it is probably common for a human warrior who has already committed the crimes of burglary, home invasion, and larceny to probably not desire to get help.
Hmm. That makes sense.
It would lead to a lot of explanation or bloodshed.
In the swamp, we have fewer things. Our dwellings are simple and are open to the air. And we seem to have fewer crimes. It's different. It seems that there's a necessity of more crimes when you have more things, that one goes with the other.
That is very true and very wise. Kian says, not sarcastically. I hope that Darrow isn't far beyond.
We could call him.
And
He sounds.
somehow, as you say that, your voice echoes back from the dark canyon ahead of you. Beyond.
Should we call him? Daru.
I look at Cecile.
Echoes run on echoes in the dark until they exhaust themselves from the retelling.
If
Huh. Well, it seems like he's not here.
if the incident at the proving grounds happened several weeks ago, and these walls were knocked over by whatever force only a few days ago, and he kind of pauses as if like struggling to find an alternative explanation, but coming up empty, he continues, then it's possible that these corridors extend for many days of journey.
Journey.
If we're going to go in there, can we get Sisyphus down here somehow?
Can we? Does it seem...
He kind of looks over at the side. Is this like bedrock at this depth, or is there like soil?
There's Earth. Yeah. So this room in particular is circumferenced by Earth, but it's obvious that there's rock in the whatever lies beyond that's echoing. And so, Kian, what are you doing?
Unless the others are like doing something in the room right now, he begins to move. He begins to continue following the echo into the corridor.
I wish it were possible for Sisyphus to follow us above.
I couldn't hear you, Dale. You said, I wish it were possible for Sisyphus to what?
To follow us above.
We might be able to do that. Can I use my Child of the Dragon? Can I use the of one mind?
But I mean, he's going to be like knocking down walls and houses, and like he probably doesn't want to do that.
Damn it.
On the other hand, it's going to be hard for anybody to stop him.
Excuse me.
Moo! As he kind of just moves the cows apart.
Have you guys seen the Naked Gun movies and how they always open with a police cruiser just driving through everything?
So Sisyphus seems initially resistant to that idea.
That makes sense.
So Keen, you descend a long stair, step after step, carefully hewn from the white granite bedrock in this area. And
Does the smell get stronger?
after
I'm sorry.
what?
I said, does the smell get stronger? Or is it still the same?
There's an organic smell that's growing as you descend. And after maybe somewhere between 40 and 50 steps, you reach an area that opens out in front of you with a stone floor, and it's obvious that that the floor is carved with something. And there's a strong smell down here. And it's clear as you reach the bottom that the whole space kind of opens out in front of you.
Still completely dark, pitch black down here, or?
Yeah, and as you wait, it seems like maybe there's a light somewhere across the way, the sort of blue-white light that blossoms.
Is it blue-white like a builder? Is it that color though?
It is kind of an indistinct blue-white light.
I don't feel any like
a
after
yellow candle flame.
I don't feel any like residual dislike for people in humanity left over from earlier contact, do I?
I assume you do or don't based on your earlier contact.
Human wizard? Maybe we've learned enough and we should report.
Report to who?
As you say that, you realize you smell blood.
Was that the smell earlier, or is this on top of it?
No, this is on top of it.
Must be fresh.
Smell iron.
Claiborne, do you smell?
That's a little rude.
Are you able to smell?
Oh.
I can sense the things around me.
Do you smell blood?
There is blood.
Paul, you were shaking your head no.
I was.
I'm going to try to follow this smell. Follow your nose.
Okay.
I do like Fruit Loops.
You move more or less directly forward out into the dark of this large open space with your candles in one hand. What do you have in the other hand? With your little hurricane lantern.
I would say a rosary, but I think this is not the right time period.
Nope. No, nothing?
I think he's actually holding the bronze dagger hospitality by the hilt.
Okay. Okay. And after maybe a dozen, maybe 15 steps, you come upon a grisly sight. You see a spinner's body like cloven in half by a massive axe, and blood sort of spilled out in a half-dried pool.
How recent was this?
The blood looks congealed and not reflective or tacky, so it can't have been terribly recently.
Do you wish to know more about this?
I look at Cecile. I do. Do you not?
All right. So, Paul, I want to use the dead dream in the waking
Okay.
world.
Okay.
And I can only use the Earth Speaks once a session, correct?
No.
I think that would also work for this.
Cecile, do you want a help or a hurt for this?
Sure.
Which would you prefer?
Pick one.
If you're going to use 3 tags, I'll give you a hurt so that you can get an attention if you want.
I think I've only got 2 for this one.
You tell me. Do you want to succeed or do you want an attention?
Unless, can I use the Heart of the Dragon for this one too? Cool.
That is your broad tag,
Yep.
but it will be bringing the dragon into things.
Oh.
Yep. All right. So we're
Okay.
definitely doing that.
All right.
We've had too much of the serpent recently. It's time the dragon got himself involved.
All right. Well, in that case, I'm definitely using the
Using a
hurt
hurt.
tag.
Yep. That's kind of what I figured. Okay, so this will be +3 -1. All right, so that would come up to a 10.
Yeah.
With the hurt.
Nice.
All right. So
So with the hurt, what does that do again? There was an extra mechanical thing where
yeah, so it
something.
it gives you an attention to this pillar.
Okay. An attention to the pillar.
Yeah.
Do not remember that in the reading. What was the attention do or tension.
So attention. So if you gather enough attention to a pillar, the pillar gets fancier.
Okay.
Fancy.
Fancy.
And that's to the divination one, or is that specifically
Yeah.
to one of the subtags? Okay. All right.
Okay, so what do we see?
So the big thing is that I see things from the perspective of the departed. So I get like flashes of images. So for example, if he like was facing down an opponent, I could see him like in purview just and see the axe like come down and then it would like,
Yeah.
go dark kind of thing, for example. Or
Yeah. So so suddenly the room the room rotates, and you see the narrow passage of the stairs, um, lit by another hurricane lantern, um, and a large burly figure carrying two axes and a light in one hand suddenly fixes his attention on
so
you
I think
and runs forward,
I'm like in this
leaping
trance
into
and I'm
the
like,
air.
keep going, sorry. Yeah.
Runs forward, leaping into the air and planting the axe in its right hand into apparently your forehead.
Right.
And then the image then collapses down into the dead spinner in front of you.
So Claiborne picks up Cecile from where he has fallen from his back. Gently replaces him. Are you well, my friend?
Yeah, no, I'm good. And then he kind of narrates what happened to everybody else.
Oh, I think everyone saw that as like a phantasm.
Great.
Oh,
Great.
really?
Kind of shared dreaming sort of thing. So yeah, you guys see him like come in and like strike Cecile and then like disappear kind of thing.
Do I
So-
recognize the warrior?
It looks not unlike Daru O'Boyne.
So just to retcon a little bit, Claiborne picks himself up and then gently picks up Cecile and replaces him on his shoulders. May I make a suggestion, Kian?
Kind of leans forward. Sure.
I think you will find that if the axe blow did not destroy the spinners will be scarred or removed.
I'm not sure if I follow.
So there's a dead spinner.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
There's a dead spider.
Right.
Basically.
I should have said
trailing.
What'd you say, Dan?
You will find that the web producing organs will have been disabled probably years ago.
This spinner. Claiborne, are you talking about this one here?
Yes.
And I don't really know a spinner biology, but does it look like there's been some sort of incision or?
It looks like a big fucking axe cut it in its neck and it died.
Obviously, but like what Claiborne was saying, where like is there a part of it that's been cut off? Or
I mean, you kind of poke around, you don't see any other obvious on its bulbous body and this bulbous kind of hairy body.
I kind of look back at Claiborne. Are you saying that the spinner must have been disabled in some way for the warrior to be able to do what he did?
No, I am saying that a spinner with the ability to spin webs would not have used wool, and I suspect this is a spinner from the proving grounds. The spinnerets would have been disabled in order to keep the cages clean.
That's possible. I don't know. I didn't ask when we were there. Although my suspicion about the wool is that was actually an act of magic. I think the room was enchanted with some sort of defense, and the second spinner activated it when it entered the room, as you all saw when it climbed out. And I think the wool web that we discovered was what's left of that spinner. But if that theory is true, which I could be wrong, there were two.
And as you say that, there's a bulbous body propended on 8 legs that passes between you and the blue-white light on the other side of the room.
I was going. He says it and he freezes in like mid-sentence, and then continues, his entire body unmoving. I was going to say that would explain the 2 spinners that were gone, but clearly I'm wrong. And he just very gingerly puts his
Cecile
hand
kind of
back on
reaches
the
out
hilt
an
of his
arm
dagger
and just gives you like a little pat on the shoulder.
Somewhere in the darkness, you hear.
Cecile's kind of cozies up to Claiborne. I wish Sisyphus was here.
So do I.
Human wizard, can't you like, and he kind of like puts an arm out. Can't you like shoot it with something like water or like the power of the serpent?
Oh, I need more hurt points.
Don't worry, you'll get them.
I need all the hurt points.
Yeah.
That's what human wizards do, right? Don't you throw fire? And he's kind of like miming, kind of like.
I think Kian, like he's still barely moving, but his eyes kind of flick towards Cecile and back towards the darkness. And
We're in the dark.
It's getting closer.
He stays almost completely unmoving, but except his mouth begins murmuring. And exactly. And I think a mist kind of starts trickling in from the walls.
Oh, good. Because what this place lacked was mist.
BYOM, bring your own mist.
Absolutely. Okay, so the air begins to thicken around you.
If
What do you find, John?
If it doesn't attack, I'm going to create a tag.
Okay.
Do I need a roll for that?
You do. You need to roll change the game.
Change the game. I'm going to do that.
Yep.
And I'm spending the voice, or I'm tapping the voice, the serpent gather, and the land changes. Or actually, in this case, the serpent is patient, because I'm just trying to set the stage for an attack.
So sorry. It's the serpent is patient. What is it?
The voice, which is
The
my
voice.
broad tag.
The serpent is patient. Okay.
The serpent is patient, and the serpent gathers.
Okay. And what? Okay. So roll plus power.
And I think the tag I'm attempting to create is the serpent coils, which is like it's ready to strike. All right. Roll 2d6 plus 3. 11. Does anybody want to spend a hurt so I can get an attention?
I think we have to do that before you roll.
Yeah.
Stop min-maxing. Don't worry, there will be enough. Okay. So a wet mist spreads out from you, and the hissing diminishes slightly and becomes directional. And so you're creating a tag.
Can I describe the effect?
So you're creating a story tag, okay,
Hmm.
which is the serpent gathers,
No. That's the tag I
the
tapped, but
serpent coils.
the serpent coils. And so I'd like to describe it. Um,
Sure.
in the light of the candle flame, which where we are currently standing is by the dead spinner, and so near one of the walls. And even in the distant bluish white indistinct light, some parts of this cavern, I think you said that the walls are a little bit moist, right?
Yeah.
And so so the serpent, already present in some form here, as more than it is even in other places, begins gathering around the cavern that we're standing in. And I think you all see, it could be just a trick of the light, but it actually looks like scales moving across the surface of each cavern wall, wherever the glimpses of wherever you see a glimpse of light reflected by the cavern wall, you see a flash of like a serpent's body rippling across the surface.
Hmm.
And it kind of coils around the entire room, like as if the serpent was around the entire cavern.
Cool.
Alrighty. Do you mind? Okay, cool. So I'm going to consume that tag.
You're going to consume it?
I am.
Okay.
So you see the shifting silver, the shifting wet silver scales of the serpent moving here and there in this relatively perfectly circular cavern. And suddenly you see lit with a silvery blue underwater glow, a recess at the edge of the underground space, and there's a very strangely there's a web across the opening of the space that you know intuitively is made of wool.
Oh.
It's the same kind of unplanned spreading of wool across the opening, and there's a what's obviously a human body connected to the wool, probably back onto it, kind of gleaming in the serpent's glow, and then in the shadow of it, an arachnid, an 8-limbed arachnid rises up in that shadow and hisses at you.
Ooh.
With its unseen arachnoid face, but the gleaming of many eyes in the dark, and then the light of the serpent fades.
So what does consuming the tag mean? Means the it's used up, and so
Yeah.
basically it highlighted a trap. Is that what happened?
It highlighted something.
I see.
Yeah.
Was it possible to tell if the warrior was already dead and sucked or dry, or was it still alive?
So the human figure that's leaning against the weird wool web, it's hard to tell, but it seemed intact. It didn't seem mummified or fucked up.
Hmm.
And so you realize that you're about halfway across the chamber, and directly across from you is kind of the blue-white glow of the bottom of an archway, and that light was like off to your right.
Okay. Kian looks at the others and draws the bronze dagger, but keeps it kind of cloaked to hide the glint of it. I think I'm going to try to cut. I think it's Darrow. I'm going to try to cut him free. But I think it's going to attack.
I agree.
I think Cecile kind of reaches down, tries to like grab a rock to sort of hold that next to Claiborne. Like,
Okay.
because he doesn't actually have any combat tags. Those are mostly Sisyphus's. So
Oh.
Okay. So you're advancing to the right in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you feel like you must have misjudged the direction, because maybe about 10 paces before you get there, off to your left, all of a sudden, a spinner on its rear four hind legs is kind of reared up in the light of your candle. And it hisses, its eyes sort of ablaze with your candlelight. And let's have you all weigh in with an initiative roll.
okay.
Rolling initiative.
So do you have any, so does anybody want to claim any tags for their roll?
Shapes.
Tell me about that.
I'm not dependent on the candlelight to see what's around me and see what's potentially coming at me.
Absolutely. Anything else?
No.
In terms
No?
of not being the person the spider attacks first, I have the Surin are always welcome.
So hang on, let's have Dale roll.
I'm not actually serious about
2d6
that one.
plus 1. But I like that.
I'm likable.
See? So it'll probably attack
That much is
Claiborne
obvious,
first.
John.
Paul, you said 2d6?
Plus 1.
Okay.
All the rolls are 2d6.
Yeah, I thought so.
I must know some good spinner jokes.
Ooh.
Oh dear. Okay. And the two of you?
Yeah, initiative isn't my thing.
Wow. Cecile has no idea what's going on.
My God.
So I think the spinner attacks, and he's looking the opposite direction, being like, "Did you guys hear something?"
Did you hear that?
Oh dear.
Up above ground. Oh, the sheep are scared.
I'm gonna
think
claim.
it might be because I am in their yard and I am scaring them.
Wow.
Go ahead, John.
I think I'm going to claim stealth and perceptive. If that works for you.
Sure.
Jesus.
Okay. So you see it. And what do?
So what do you do if you don't have tags for something, but you want to fuck with something? I guess you would need to change the game, right?
Yeah, to use your power to inflict a tag on it, or give a tag to yourself that you consume.
Oh, I think I know what I do. How this might be a stupid question, but how malleable is bronze? Can you like, could I scratch something into it?
Yeah.
Give me one moment.
One second, I'm gonna be right back.
No, that's not actually very useful. So I think he kind of recoils and holding the dagger forward as if it's some sort of sacred charm. He continues the charm, and the mist kind of takes time to gather again. I'm going to try to do the same thing I did before.
Okay, so and it was almost like the stand-up hiss was a distracting move because its ass curls underneath, and webbing shoots out at you, Kian, for holding the light.
So can I instead of, I haven't actually rolled yet, can I do that as a way to avoid taking a hit?
Sure.
So I'm tapping the same 3 tags.
Which are?
The voice, the serpent gathers, and the serpent is patient.
So you're casting the same like obscuring mist spell.
Yeah.
To protect yourself from its shooting
Yeah.
web.
And I think the way it's actually happening here is like first he was, and the two of you probably don't you don't recognize the words that he's chanting, but like mid chant, it changes. It was first the same charm that he was saying earlier, which the gathered around, and you almost begin to see, like the movement on the. Oh my fucking god! Sorry, somebody's at the door. I need to answer that.
Okay. What do you guys do?
Cecile doesn't have a lot he can do.
Holy shit.
I think he's gonna throw his rock at the web and see what the result is.
Claiborne, he's going to hold up his left hand, and his hand is going to, the fingers are going to cleave together, and the hand is going to stretch and become a blade.
Okay. I love when I prepare adventures and I'm like, oh, that's not nearly enough. I need to put together way more than this. And then I'm like, oh, they haven't even gotten to the adventure yet.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Alrighty, so you're muttering out a charm to gather the mist to defend you
And so what
somehow against the web.
And so what happens is, instead of what happened earlier, Kian actually kind of falls back towards the wall, and the mist kind of envelops in front of him, kind of hiding him from sight.
Okay.
Adequate.
So actually you fall back as the mist wraps itself around you, and the web slams into your left shoulder, kind of spinning you into the mist as it does. And so you take and then the strands of it kind of like crush your body as you turn. And so you take Bound by the Mist 2, or Bound by the Web 2.
Even despite the success, huh?
So a 7 to 9 is a success in face danger. You
Right.
take the status anyway, but on a -1 tier.
I see. Oh, so it's initially a 3. Wow. Rough.
Yeah. Okay, so Dale, you form a blade, and Matthew, you're picking up a rock. And what do you guys do?
So he threw it at the web to see what would happen.
Okay, it like hits the web and bounces off.
Okay. Factor.
I am going to. Is Cecile still on my shoulders?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I am going to walk toward the web with the human figure in it.
Okay. All right. So you make your way forward, and then we'll start the next round. So John, you've kind of fallen to the side, and you're sort of bound up partly by the web.
Yeah. Is the web webbing or is it wool?
It's actually webbing.
Right.
It's sticky and thick, and as you grab it, and like, oh, fuck. Like you grab at it, and then it's got your hands.
And so what does a status effect mean for me? Can I still do things, or is it a penalty?
So it means any physical things you do are reduced by 2 by Bound by the Web.
Okay. As I see Claiborne, and what is the spider's? Who is the spider? Is the spider still focused on me, or is it now focused on somebody else?
So it's hard to see because as you kind of fell, I imagine the candle lantern kind of crashed to the ground next to you.
I think he had put it down on the ground, actually.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
But
so your fall has kind of partially obscured the light of the lantern, so it's hard to see what the spider's up to.
Can I? Is there a way to make just a quick check if I can hear where the spider is moving?
You can make an investigation.
Would that count as my action, though?
No.
Okay. I want to make a quick investigation to see if I know what's going on with the spider.
Do you have any tags?
Yeah, I'm going to use perceptive, of course, and
yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah, I guess so. Just perceptive. 6 + 1.
Oh. And so your one question is going to be limited.
Is the spider still focused on me? That's all I want to know.
No.
Then I kind of lean back in and I continue chanting, and I'm going to try to change the game
Okay.
again. Voice, serpent gathers, serpent is patient.
Okay. Oh.
What?
And sorry. What are we seeing? What's happening?
I think as the mist, the webbing kind of got him, and he's kind of attached to the wall, and the mist
Mm-hmm.
kind of just dances over his body as if it's kind of it kind of looks like a if you've ever seen kind of a smoke trail of something that's kind of conically going off into the distance. It looks like that, but it's going through him, and he's kind of channeling the serpent again.
Hmm.
And so I want to conjure the serpent coils again because it was consumed.
Okay. Okay. So you conjure the serpent coils. So there's a witness in the room. And the room starts to feel strangulated. Gail, what's what's Claiborne doing?
When Claiborne reaches the humanoid figure in the web, he's going
So
to
as you get close, the spider skitters in the way and again rears up on its hind four legs and hisses at you.
I bring the blade forward and threaten with it and continue forward.
Okay, so are you trying to intimidate the spider out of the way, or are you
Yes.
going toe to toe with it, or what are you doing?
I'm trying to intimidate.
Trying to intimidate. Okay, so that sounds like a convince. Alrighty, and so you've got the blade you formed, so I'll give you that as consumable. What else have you got?
How much of the spinner's perception is based on body heat? Because I noticed that the place they'd been staying, the basement they'd been staying, didn't have any light sources.
Right. So just rather than ask that, just tell me what you're doing, or tell me what the spider sees.
Well, it may I think it can see Claiborne and it can see the blade, but Claiborne is also basically cold, and
Yeah.
But it has a warm-blooded creature sitting on its back, and the whole situation may be quite unnerving. I'm not sure what it's perceiving, but what it's perceiving may be fairly disturbing.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
Right.
So that's 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Ah, fuck.
Do you want me to type it for you?
No, it's. Can readjust it. There we go. Oh,
Okay. So you thrust the blade and it kind of like skitters slightly to the side, and you bypass it, reaching the human figure in the wool webbing, and you realize it's much smaller than you thought it was. It's like a boy. It's not a man.
okay. I'm going to reach out to its neck and feel for warmth.
Okay. You reach out and grab, and it seems like deathly cool to your touch.
Hmm.
And then the spider, like right next to you, is like hissing at you in such a way that it's like the droplets of its breath are striking your face.
Wow, it's right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Cecile, what are you doing? Nothing. Okay.
Can he talk to the spider?
Sure.
All right, he's going to try and communicate.
Okay.
Okay, great.
And so you're
I am doing the I guess convince is the closest thing. Or is it a change the game if I'm trying to change the results of the interaction?
Hmm.
well.
So it's either convince or change the game kind of thing.
Yeah. So are you trying to get the spider to do something, or are you creating something in the room?
So more that he's just trying to kind of like interrupt and like de-escalate. I mean, no one's actually exchanged a blow yet. There's been a lot of posturing on both sides. No one stabbed a spider. The spider hasn't physically made contact with any of us.
So are you trying to give the spider a status of like chill the fuck out?
Yeah, basically that.
Or maybe we're not worth it. I think
Right.
would be
Or we're
a
not
more
here for you kind of thing. We're
Although
not prey and we're not predators.
spinners are sentient, right?
Yeah.
They are, yeah.
Yeah.
They're not prone to like negotiating to a great degree. I don't know that. Does anyone have like negotiations and like with the spinners that anyone knows about?
I'm likable.
None of you do.
Well, I don't even think like the flit or the pantry like know them particularly well, but they're I mean they are intelligent. They can kind of know like maybe 3 against 1 isn't ideal, and if I don't have to fight these things, then
and at a fundamental level, this thing is behaving very strangely.
right.
And so you're trying to impose a status of like chill the fuck out.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not here for you kind of thing.
And so what do we see, and then what tags are you involving?
Let's go over the tags first, and then I think we're gonna do I speak for the Syrian people.
Okay.
And the
Like
Syrian are always welcome.
Okay. That makes total sense to me.
Yep. And then I think those are the two that kind of hit specifically.
Okay.
Oh, well, the other thing is, can I use geodreams less as like a pulling, but just as sort of a conduit by which I can exchange basic thoughts and feelings?
So,
So that sort of like an empathy kind
so,
of thing.
so only if you're going to describe to us the dream world that rises around all of it that's pulling us in.
Oh, fine. Okay. So, I think Cecile like clambers down Claiborne's back, kind of like a chimpanzee, and then he like stands in front of the spider, and he like just grabs some of the loose dirt. There's like a little bit of like excess dirt, and he like blows it, and then it just like goes out and stops. And for a minute, like everything around seems to kind of change. The space is still the same, but there's this feeling of alienness. And anyone who's sensitive, I think, can kind of feel that we're in the presence of what would have been the power of the dragon. And everybody, when they kind of move, because I think you're still kind of moving in the real world and you're kind of conscious of that, but you also kind of have this idea of this other space in which you're kind of moving in slow motion and are kind of able to act in synchronous with what you're doing. So it's almost like there's kind of the physical and spiritual parts of yourself. And the physical part is still kind of moving, but the spiritual part is kind of like slowing and like talking. And it's like this disorienting feeling that you're kind of in two places at once. And I think the big
Okay.
thing with the geodreams is this idea that you can't, when you speak in this world, you're not using words because I haven't kind of conditioned it for that. But you're kind of directing thoughts and feelings at one another at a very basic level. So like lowest, like anger would come, like fear would come, like a feeling of like disinterest. So like you're kind of projecting feelings and emotions at one another. And you can kind of feel Cecile directing sort of this non-threatening, non-aggressive thing at the spider, but also like there's this little bit of steel behind it. This kind of feeling like the closest analogy you can kind of get in your brain is we are not prey, but also that we're not here for you kind of thing. We're not predators either. And kind of this idea, it's like we are just other creatures passing through. We're not here to fight or to be eaten.
Okay. 2d6 plus 3.
Okay. $13.
Oh,
Holy
So is that
shit.
dynamite?
okay. So the motes of earth linger in the air, falling slowly, and it kind of hissing expands out to fill the chamber, and inside the hissing you hear, for her I will protect him till days run out of days.
Okay. And I think you get kind of like so you guys are part of this geodream because I just kind of did the huge thing. So you guys are
Yeah.
potentially able to also communicate at this point. So yeah, Cecile kind of he does a similar sort of hiss. And I think with a 13, I can sort of communicate and sort of connect at that level. So you get kind of
Sure.
a hiss like, these are my people, and I will protect them. But we're not here for her. And there's a little question about what her is.
Um, if we're also now in this,
Yeah.
like there's all of that coming from Cecile, and then but there's only the her question mark coming from Kian.
Kian's like, these aren't exactly my people, but
No.
like
Oh no, these are my people, but the spinner isn't.
right.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't say the spinner was, but just that these are my people to protect, but we're not here to like threaten you kind of thing.
Is the queen of the morning, and you will have nothing of her.
Queen of the morning. Do I know what that means?
Is that like
You
the
have no
goddess?
idea.
Is that like Pranabin?
Sure, why not?
Um
Although everyone knows Pranabin was the first goddess to be fucking murdered during the Gods Fall War.
yeah, but everybody knows the dragon's dead too. I'm just
Sure.
saying. You know, when gods die, things happen. It's a little confusing.
There's a queen of the morning with a question mark, and this time the feeling that accompanies it, in contrast to the her question mark, is actually curiosity and respect.
And it begins to scuttle back in front of you to like reposition between you and the figure in the woolen web.
He kind of thinks the question, the queen of the morning, and kind of gestures to the figure in the web.
This is the one who could not be part of mourning, and we protect him. We who remain. And obviously, it's a reference to the dead spinner in the middle of the room.
We were made, did they say, or we were mates?
We who remain.
Oh, we who remain.
Clayborn's going to back away from the figure in the web and go to Kian.
Okay.
And he's going his hand on the trip back over to Kian has the blade has shortened and drooped and split and become an elongated hand and then become a hand. And he holds that hand out over Kian, and it begins to rain from his palm. He's dropping water on Kian where the web is sticking him.
I think Kian kind of tries to wiggle his way free, and the kind of voice that the kind of feeling that he was projecting kind of grows silent, as if leaving it to Cecile. But he goes back to chanting.
Yeah, so Cecile kind of directs like curiosity with who the person in the web is. So first there's like sorrow for the one who was killed in the floor, and understanding that you can't abandon one without like last rites and everything. and there's like this tentative offer, like there could be help if it wished, but doesn't kind of like dwell on it because he doesn't want to presume. But then he
Death
thinks,
comes, death goes, death waits.
and the one in the web.
Death waits.
You said that we can send, like, it's not just feelings but images
Mm-hmm.
too,
Yeah.
right? By the way, I as this conversation is going, I would also like to be physically chanting and trying to increase the serpent coils to 2. Can I make that roll?
Sure.
Because it's a really good idea to be in the dragon stream and be increasing the power of the serpent at the same time.
That's a good point.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
So greasy. So simultaneous.
Oh god, because I have a thing I want to do to the spider, but I don't want to be a dick if the spider's not. Okay, I think I'll belay that, but I will send the image to the spinner of Pranabin.
So like the glorious dawn and the like the faces revolving around her, and
I think that would be a little much for the spinner, just because they dwell underground, and I don't think the dawn is the same thing to them as it is to us. But I send maybe the image that, like, what a sculpture would look like of Pranabin with the faces kind of going around it.
it's probably the same thing.
Oh, then that.
So I think you reach forward and you're thinking of the dawn, and the pale blue light across the chamber suddenly arcs in brilliance, and it seems that the sun is rising beyond the doorway in the other half of this circular room, and suddenly you can see all the details of the room. The floor is a perfect circle, and there are 2 at the antipodes. There are 2 offsets. One is empty and one is full of a web and its prisoner. And there are writings all around the circle, and then there's the doorway, and you can see that lying halfway out of the doorway is a small body. And beyond the doorway, now burning with light, you can see a hallway of articulated stone, sort of bending off out of sight.
How many bodies do we see total?
So you see the dead spinner in the middle of the room, cloven by an enormous axe. And then you see the other spinner standing, what's obvious guard in front of the web with the small body in it. Although the web is not made of spinner web material, it's made of wool. And you see the spinner kind of standing half on its hind legs and half sort of reared, with its eyes blazing in the birth of light.
And like it's like arms, like, or it's like 2 legs, like forward kind of thing.
Yeah, like its 4 legs sort of out and kind of
like an aggressive tarantula.
Yeah, and it's many diamantine eyes burning. And the alcove that's partly behind you, that's the antipode of the one that's full of the spider's web and the dude, is just empty.
Oh, so there's no new figures. The small body you were referring to was the same one that was in the web earlier.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we make out the features?
No. Oh. Sorry, there is a new body. There is a small body lying across the lintel of the doorway. of the blue light, kind of builder light doorway on the other side of the room, from which now dawn is emerging.
And the half that we can see, is it the face or the legs?
It's the legs.
Okay. And can we make out the features clearly of the body that's in the web?
It looks like a young man, maybe like 12,
But
10.
but not like a
Somewhere around
young
there.
man who would be like intimately familiar to Keegan, like who he'd seen
No,
often in the past,
no.
like at the beginning of the
And
adventure.
the
Not
figure
Mort,
lying
please.
half
Right.
and the and the and the figure lying halfway through the doorway is a young figure, maybe, and you think it's a boy in a boy's kilt, maybe like 6 or 8.
So it seemed from the spider, do we get any sense of recognition? Like, what do we get an emotion from the spider?
The spider is protecting the boy in the web.
Even though the boy seems dead.
Yeah.
Death waits.
So in this strange emotional communication, Claiborne turns and opens his mouth to speak, and all of you get an impression of an inky blackness in which you can perfectly see the figure, the shape of a warrior as if formed out of clay, and holding up an axe that's obviously formed out of clay. And you can see his footprints going backwards behind him as if he's been walking in wet clay. But you can also see his footprints going out ahead of him. And there's a feeling of where.
Hmm.
What's the feeling tone of the where?
Where is it?
Yeah, that's still the same question. Is it like, I want to find him, I want to stop him, I want to get him? What's the emotional?
Right. What I mean by where is it is I wasn't saying where is he. There's where is the love? There's a feeling of detachment from it's not a friendly, it's not someone looking for a friend.
Hmm.
It's someone looking for a path of destruction.
The spider pauses in its hissing, and its right larger second forelimb points at the half blue white doorway leading into where the dawn is emerging from.
Oh.
The dream is sort of the dream and the mist both are sort of pulling apart.
Hmm.
Claiborne moves toward the blue lighted area and away from the web.
All right. So it goes from having indicated the doorway to back to pointing at you and the dawn light is beginning to fade from the doorway, and then only the kind of blue idiot smile of the bottom half of the doorway continues to gleam as you move in that direction. And it kind of...
Is Pranabin ever associated in any way with spinners?
No.
Strange. Kian begins using the time to try to free himself with haste but not violence.
Yeah, slick as you are, freeing yourself from the web is relatively easy. You because it had a tenuous hold on you, which like on your left shoulder, and so you kind of turn away from it and kind of lever a dagger up underneath it, and the web falls away.
Was the water help?
Yeah, the moisture in the water, and then the light of dawn is beginning to fade, and the light is beginning to shrink back towards your candle lantern, sitting coincidentally at the exact center of this enormous granite circle marked with runes.
Actually, I'm gonna wait.
Okay, so Claiborne, you're moving toward the doorway.
Yes.
Okay. You get there and you see there's a very clear, actually, you're having a really weird sensation, which is you can see like the bottom half of the child. You saw in that dawn light like a child having fallen through the doorway, but as you approach it, you're only seeing like the legs.
Yeah.
Up to like a kind of disarrayed kilt. And there's something weird about this light.
About
like
what light?
Yeah. So like as you approach there's like a half pipe of light, and you can see that beyond the doorway there's more kind of blue-white light, but you can only see the child, like the lower half of the child, in a rumpled kilt.
Cecile kind of looks at the spinner, and he kind of mentally sends over a kind of complex image where he's trying to communicate what's the danger there. And like there's a couple images like burning or falling or death, and there's kind of he's trying to kind of get a sense of what the danger over there is. And so he's kind of like rapid kind of like thinking a bunch of potential dangers.
So as the dreaming kind of fades out of the vestiges of the dreaming sort of fade out of the room, you get a sense of like a hole in the ground.
Where?
Okay. Through that room?
At the doorway. That the doorway is like a hole in the ground.
Oh.
He gives the respectful bow to the spinner, which is kind of what the Surin kind of have this respectful bow where they kind of go through when they're negotiating with the other races. And then he kind of moves off, and then he warns Claiborne There's something you can fall into over there. Be careful.
This is strange. What do you see?
As Cecile looks, what do I see? Do I see anything different from what Claiborne did?
As you turn and look, and in the places where Claiborne is standing in front of the blue-white lintel of the doorway, you see only the bones inside his body and nothing else.
I see what you once were. I see your bones and the sword. But I do not see your covering.
Claiborne actually looks surprised.
Okay, and Kian?
I think Kian finally, after having gotten free, moves to the center of the room and gingerly picks up the lamp. And he makes kind of a very obvious motion of putting the blade that he's been holding back into his belt. And then he kind of, while still kind of taking a step back in a slightly defensive posture, kind of holds the lamp up to get a close look at the face of the boy.
So you're in the middle of the room and the boy is like way over to one side?
How would it be take a long time to go up to him?
So there's a boy in the web, and then there's a boy that's fallen through the doorway.
Right. I'm not the one in the doorway, but the one in the web.
So it'd be, you'd have to, and the spider in the dark is clearly standing in front of the web.
Right.
And it's pissed.
Oh, is it still pissed?
Yes.
Oh.
It's standing guard there for some reason.
Okay. In that case, I won't.
And you know that if you approach it, it'll be more pissed.
Got it.
Which is fine, but just so you
No.
know.
I think I didn't have the elements where they were, so I'm gonna instead move towards the doorway.
Okay. So as you approach with the light, Claiborne goes from being a partial blue-white skeleton in the dark to being himself.
As I approach.
Yeah.
And I
So
saw
as you
him
bring
as
the light
skeleton.
closer, as you approach, you see pieces of a blue-white skeleton kind of glowing in the dark. And then as you approach with the lamp and the actual light of the candle falls across him, it's just the clay, gloopy.
So the blue-white skeleton, is that like the same blue-white glow, the builder stone?
Yes.
Well, that's good.
You don't have to follow us anymore, Claiborne. You can stay behind.
You are important.
Yeah.
Although you.
And I will stalk you. Okay, so presumably you come stumping up on damp palms, Cecile, and Claiborne. What are you doing? So what you're seeing is half the body, and maybe like the stone is sort of sweatily luminous, but it doesn't look to you like there's anything past the lighted stone. Like there's just nothing.
Cecile mentions, can you
But
grab
to the two
the
of you,
legs and
it
pull
looks
them
like
out?
there's a hallway kind of arcing away.
I actually reach down and grab a rock, like a very small pebble or stone, and I toss it into the doorway towards the light.
Okay, it goes.
Do we hear it?
Skitter. Yeah, it goes skittering down the hall.
Well,
Mhm.
that's a good sign.
Okay.
Cecile moves forward a little bit. So the light's kind of, there's like a barrier kind of light thing, right? And then like
No, there's just the stones of the bottom half of the doorway are glowing with a blue-white light, but the only thing you see in that light is Claiborne's skeleton.
okay. I think he's gonna reach forward because you said there's like half of a person like on this
Yeah,
side.
and yeah, and there's a child body
He's gonna try and
halfway
pull it
through the doorway.
back to
Pull by the ankles.
yeah.
Okay, so you grab the ankles and kind of lean back
Uh-huh.
and sort of pull the body backwards.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So you drag the kilted, tunicked body backward into the room.
Cool. So there's another half of it that's revealed.
Yes.
Awesome. That's what I was hoping for.
Although there is something wrong with the body as you drag it into the room.
He's gonna gingerly turn it over so it's face up, or
it seems to grow longer as you pull it into the room, kind of lean. I imagine you sort of leaning back and sort of falling backwards
yeah.
as you use your weight to lurch the body into the room.
Mhm.
And the body seems to grow, and as you lurch backwards and kind of turn, and the boy legs sort of splay over, an increasingly man's body kind of lurches into sight.
Like it's kind of
And
like aging as I pull it out.
no, like it's a little boy's legs, and then it's attached to like an adolescent torso, and then an adult's shoulders, and an older man's head. With like gray in the wild red of its hair.
Do we recognize the face?
No, not particularly.
Human wizard. I know I haven't been along with your people for very long, but that's not normal, correct?
No, that is not correct.
That is wrong.
That is very wrong.
All right. He's going. So
Is
he alive?
The blue white, no.
Okay, so he's dead.
And the blue white light of the lower half of the doorway is beginning to dim.
So yeah, he's checking he's dead. He kind of opens up the shirt and things. Are there any marks of like family or clan, or I mean, the society doesn't have a wallet with like a license, but like whatever the equivalent would be, like, like, is there any insignia that
so
would
he's not
show-
wearing a sweater with a knot pattern of note. He doesn't seem to have any particular tattoos on his upper body.
Is the clothing appropriate for like is all the clothing of an adolescent boy and it's split, or is the clothing like
So from like the waist down, where he was protruding from the doorway on this side, it's a boy's kilt, like it's a Tuhal boy's kilt. But the man's body on top is wearing like a leather vest,
like a man's
that
vest?
looks worn. Yeah. And there's a hoop earring in each ear with a yellow white stone at the bottom of the gold ring that glows in the dark.
Cool loot.
What color does it glow?
Like yellow white. Like the light of a candle.
Um,
There's a soft of feet. You can hear the spinner coming over.
I
Like
kind
aggressively or
It seems to be moving slowly.
okay.
I look back and I hold up the lantern, not aggressively, but
Okay. You hold up the lantern and the spinner kind of into the light, and then like around the edge of your light, like obviously trying to get to the body.
to this body, the one we
Yeah.
just pulled out.
Yes.
Does this body seem recently dead?
Do parts of this body seem recently dead?
Doesn't seem in any way decayed.
Can I find out what killed him?
How would you do that?
I would like to do an investigate.
Do you want Cecile to investigate and we can see how he died in all of its 3D glory?
I'm not sure I do, but you know what? Sure, why not?
I mean, John, I'm asking if you want to see it versus does Kian want to see it? Because I'm pretty sure Kian doesn't. So the
Kian
question
does
is, does
not,
John want to see
but John
it?
wants to see it. Do
Okay.
it.
So, Paul, I'd like to use the dead dream in the waking world,
Okay.
and some of the knowledge of what's past again, like I did before.
And the knowledge of what? Oh no, it's past here.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Okay.
both the divination.
So 2d6 plus you.
Yep. Ooh, an 8.
Oh,
Adequate. That's a worrisome
So,
smile.
So, the light, not from the bottom half lintel, but from the air inside the portal that leads the hallway on, um, light begins to blossom behind the dead body. And where first it falls across him, he sort of shakes his head and kind of looks around, and then sits up, and the light spreads out into the room. And he looks around and says, oh, shite. I thought the fucking blocks fell on me. And then the light sort of flares out to fill the room from behind him. And as it pulls back, you find yourself standing in the market, and a number of people have stopped in the early morning light and turned to look at you. And it's only a passing moment, but you feel uncharacteristically unjudged by their gaze. All of you, as though somehow these few men and women have found a value to you that you have yet to discover. And then they turn back away from you toward the soft dawn light coming from the nearby mountains. And you realize that for your entire life, you have not considered the dawn and what it does to and for the world, and the way that the soft light of morning wakes everything and lends everything light and color and a hope of being that you feel like you lost somewhere, but couldn't quite name where you lost it. And then that dazzling moment passes. And you see that there are 3 shopkeepers looking quite closely at you from within all-encompassing white robes. And with a shock, Kian, you recognize in the 3 of them, these shopkeepers, the visage of Thurn, the god of death. And all 3 of them simultaneously draw short white scythes from their robes and arise from their sitting positions and move toward you as the participants in the market draw back. And I think we'll end there for next time. Yay. Sorry.
So did the god of death kill him, or we don't know?
We don't know.
Nate wasn't quite good enough. It's like, yeah, there was a whole bunch of supernatural stuff, and dude's dead.
So before
Yes, so we're gonna go into geeking out at the credits.
can I ask a question about what we just saw?
Yeah. Yeah.
Before the vision of us in the market, or possibly the reality, who knows? The guy, we saw him get stand up, in the
He sat
present,
up.
where we were
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And when he sat up, was he in his weird child man body, or was he in a normal?
I mean, he sat up and you just saw his adult torso, look around.
And he said, "I thought the blocks got me."
Yeah.
I see. And then that was it. That's all we saw from him, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then you looked up as the dawnlight washed over you.
Got it.
I'd like a little bit of clarification on something.
Yes.
The spinner said, "Death comes, death goes, death waits." Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
All right. So, geeking out over the credits. Thoughts about the story, your fellow players, moments that you liked.
I was delighted by your description of the effect of the light of the archway on Claiborne. That's absolutely fascinating and
Yeah.
nothing like anything we've discussed. So I'm very curious about that, Paul. Wow, neat. Well, you guys.
I did love seeing how your character used his powers, John.
Oh, thank you.
Where
I
and I kind of had fun kind of having a character who had no idea how a human wizard kind of works. And I was like, this is the part where you just throw fireballs kind of thing, right? And yours is all about like you're kind of trying to get in and you're trying to like draw and sort of this trying of power kind of thing, making
well,
science of this power thing and just
yeah.
having no idea what you're doing.
Well,
Oh, oh. Anybody still there?
Out like all the mechanics and what Paul did really well.
Hello.
You're back. Anyway, but yeah, so it's kind of fun to have there be more bodies because that's one of the main ways that his mythos kind of manifests itself is that his people have this, I'm going to call it like necromancy, where they can kind of experience the final moments of the dead. And that's a big part of how they, and part of them, kind of their spirit kind of going to the dragon and all this, that transition between like the living world and the earth is where they're strongest. And so that was kind of fun in the game to have that chance.
there are two things I love all of that, and I think I definitely noticed that in this session, what you were trying to do with that. And there are two things I really liked. Well, first, the thing I wanted to also note that the thing I liked about Claiborne and his mythos in this session was like, and also I really just enjoy the way you've kind of portrayed his senses being fundamentally different from human senses.
I was really happy for that opportunity to show you a little bit of how he perceives the world.
Yeah, the world is clearly very different for him than it is for us, and that was very interesting for me, both in ways that are interestingly helpful and in ways that are interestingly not helpful. So that's always been entertaining.
Yeah.
And another thing I loved just in general was that I feel like our group represents kind of different ways of being in the world. Like, and there's a nice tension and balance both in that. Like, I think Claiborne feels to me like a character who is very much about like experiencing the earth, but in a material, like concrete, physical sort of way.
As we play, I'm learning that perhaps Claiborne's greatest strength is in his perceptions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Been more helpful than any of the single physical things he's done.
Yeah.
I think
I do like the
makes sense.
fact that there's been danger and we've never seen Claiborne like engage in combat or really shown any aggression, but we've also seen like the sword and everything. So there's all this thing where it's like Claiborne could be very dangerous and yet he never really is. And it would be and I think that's kind of interesting, this fact that like Claiborne just has like so much like self-control. And I think in particular, like with the setting and like the Celtic and whatnot, you kind of get like the Celtic myth, and a lot of it is like things are heating up, and the person who wins is the person who grabs the weapon first and has like the first strike. And you get what is it, the poetic Ada and different stuff, and like there's this premium on shooting first, so to speak, not shooting but like grabbing the spear and taking out your opponent before they have a chance to react, because you kind of saw this what it was going to be. And how Claiborne is resolutely like the opposite, that Claiborne kind of remains non-threatening and somewhat inexplicable, where like things kind of attack Claiborne and he gets wet and a little bit less effective, but like he just sort of endures everything, and that's kind of fun to see as a character.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
That-
oh, go ahead.
That's specifically something that I'm going for with Claiborne.
Mm-hmm.
And forming the blade out of his hand,
Mm-hmm.
that was pure theatrics because it's made of mud.
Mm.
And so he was going to approach the figure in the web and use the blade to hold the spider at bay as he uses his hand, which is actually useful to
Right.
try to undo the web.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, that he wasn't actually planning to use it as a weapon. It was pure deterrent.
And one thing I like with your character, John, with Cecile, is this idea that Cecile kind of has this raw like Surian people kind of thing, this sort of somewhat like jingoistic, like the Surian like way is the best way, but like in your interactions, like he's a little bit critical, but at the same time he's kind of young, and I think there's like the beginnings of like admiration
Oh,
for some of the parts of like humanity and like of you, but it's like he doesn't know how to like express that, and so it's like this constant like, well, how do you guys think about this, because this is Surian philosophy, and Keegan just being like, well, this is how we do it, and him being like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
yeah. I think Kian would never admit it out loud, but he does find the gentle, curious criticism to be actually kind of endearing, as much as he probably is frustrated at the same time. In the way, I think, like you said, like there's sort of a childlike, like not in a childlike in intellect sense, but in childlike in terms of like inexperience with this
Right.
culture. And it's kind of like, you know, what I was saying earlier is that the three of us have different ways of being, and like Claiborne is kind of like being in the world physically, and I feel like Cecile and Sisyphus, but more Cecile, is kind of experiencing the world with this sort of passive curiosity, with just kind of letting things happen and just kind of letting things, like he wants to know, so he's acting on the world, but it's more of a I want to learn.
Right.
And Kian is a very human person who is like, I am going to control this. I need to change this. I
Right.
need to work this. Which of course is going to get all of us in trouble. And I'm looking forward to dooming all of us with that human ingenuity. But
How would that happen? So any hurt or help toward each other from that?
I mean, I think you were thinking there was a little bit of hurt with Cecile kind of like needling you and being somewhat difficult and a little bit cowardly at certain points during the adventure, being like,
yeah,
I mean, you know.
I used up a hurt, but I could always use another one.
So I could see Kian, I could see you having hurt toward
Claiborne.
I could see Cecile having a help towards Claiborne, just because Claiborne was his ride and kind of his protection, and Claiborne kind of did a lot to sort of shield him, kind of facing the spider with his body and trying to kind of be the sort of clay or brick wall between him and harm.
Actually,
so I could see a help towards Claiborne coming out of that one.
Sure.
I think I will take a +1 hurt towards Claiborne because of the blue-white of the skeleton in the doorway, and the builder light after, you know, the dream that Cecile had with the get out, and the builder hates all of us. So I think that could be interesting in the future.
And Claiborne, do you have any lingering stuff toward your companions?
I think he's learning that not only are his own perceptions
uniquely useful to situations, he's also learning how by the reactions to the world of his companions, he's learning in what ways his perceptions are limited. And so that could be a form of help.
I'm noticing what's interesting to me is that not only do I think we're learning about how Claiborne sees the world differently, but I get the sense that Claiborne is also learning how he sees the world differently from everybody else.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
I get the sense in the past that he just sort of accepted like humans are weird and I don't necessarily understand every single thing that they're doing or why they're doing it. But I think that there's more of a there's a fundamental difference in how they, as in the rest of humanity, also see the world.
And I do think it's interesting with Claiborne. Originally, I thought there was like sort of this dark secret underneath that he was kind of keeping from the group, and we were kind of discovering little bits of it. And then increasingly, I'm getting the feeling that there's this dark secret underneath that Claiborne doesn't really have any idea about what it is. And we're sort of like noticing it, and Claiborne's, oh, that's interesting. Maybe that's why I'm with you guys, so I can figure out what this is, kind of thing.
So several years ago, when the Marvel film of did Paul freeze?
No, I'm
he's
here.
moving again. Okay, but Paul, you're a slideshow right now.
Again.
Okay, yeah, you're a slideshow. Probably connection problems. The Marvel film, not the Avengers. Who are the outer space
Guardians,
team of
Guardians of
heroes?
the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Guardians of the
Yeah.
Galaxy. When that first came out, Paul saw it long before I did, and he said, "Okay, it's stupid fun. You really need to see this film because there's a character in it that you would have made up and played."
Groot.
So, so regarding, yeah. So yes, Paul, I did consciously make Claiborne in that mold, and
We are Groot.
regarding what Claiborne is learning about himself through the perceptions of his companions, I can only say, you are important, and I will follow you.
That's also kind of the potential beauty of understanding your difference, is that when you understand how you are different from somebody, then you also gain a better ability to empathize and understand that person because you know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's kind of what we're doing here in this gaming.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so
love
is
that.
that a hurt is that a help toward one of your companions for your character? Or
I would the most powerful effect on Claiborne was Cecile's emotional communication.
So that'd be a help towards Cecile.
That's definitely a help towards Cecile.
Oh yeah, that must have been a really beautiful moment for Claiborne, because that was a moment of like unfiltered communication where it was like what you were saying and what you wanted to convey was received in basically exactly the way you wanted it to be received, which I imagine is rare for you.
Yes, and it's bittersweet though, because at the same time he perceived things that he cannot normally perceive, which is your emotions. And that I think that would be exquisitely painful to him. And not in a negative sense,
no,
but it would be exquisite.
Yeah.
Like realizing there's colors in the world that you can never see, kind of
That
thing.
yeah, realizing what you're missing and before it goes away. Yeah.
It's like one of those YouTube videos of a colorblind person putting on those color amplifying glasses
Mhm.
And then stepping on the glasses.
color.
Oh,
Yeah, there's some colors for you.
yeah.
So thank you and welcome to the end of episode 6, part 1, The Spiral of A Marriage of Serpents.
The homicidal part of me is just slightly disappointed that I didn't get to choke the spider to death in water in dry land.
I'm sure you'll have an option to choke something.
Oh, I'm sure. The serpent is
Gone.
patient.
Gone
The
down,
serpent is
Airfog.
patient.